Beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 2. We've made it this far. I'm actually impressed. And as you can see on the intro, from next week, we'll be moving our show from Thursdays over to Wednesdays because I'm actually getting a response back from the audience that they love the show. But on Thursdays, they want to go out and, Thursdays party mode starts. So we're going to move it back from next week to Wednesdays, and we're going to make it more viewer friendly. And on this evening's show, I've got my strapping young lad brother, Rezaei, and I've got a mate of mine who we recently become friends, Miguel Basson. And gents, let's go for it, Rez. Say hi to the audience. Tell
Hi,
us what's
guys.
in your mind today, what's happening.
Hi, guys. It's been a while since I've been on the show. AJ, thanks for me once again on your little endeavors.
My slave name is Arash, don't forget.
Right. And Miguel, nice meeting you. What's on my mind today? Well, it's been quite a hot day, and this year is flying by. I mean, today's the 8th of January already. 8th of February already. So
it's taking its effects on you, eh? Yeah.
Yeah. It's going very fast.
It's going very fast. It's January. Yeah.
January 25 now.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, the year is actually going quite quickly. There's a lot of exciting things that's happening in the world economy. Obviously, with the whole BRICS now starting to kick in, and that's going to make a big impact on the African continent. And then there's a lot of other unnecessary admin in the world. But I mean, this is not a political show, so we're not going to get involved into that. But yeah, that's about it. It's been quite a hot sunny day today. Of January, February 24. I still keep signing documents 23, which has become a bit of a problem because I keep having to redo the documents. So yeah, that's pretty much on my mind. How are you doing, Miguel? What's been happening on your side? Nice of you to join us.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Sure, I can agree on the heat. The heat is hectic. I was actually hoping for a bit of thunderstorms tonight, but it looks like it didn't happen. On my side, sure, business has been going very well. We started very strong this year, very exciting year. Family's good, healthy, everyone's happy, which is always a blessing. So in a very good space when it comes to overall life. So I'm very happy and pleased, and I'm excited for the year. I'll be honest, I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a very good year.
That's very good. Miguel, if you don't mind me asking, what line of work are you in? So maybe touch on that for the audience.
Sure, yeah. So we founded a mobile tech company. So we launched back in 2017. When we started, we were just a mobile app, very basic. The app was only Android, and you could view ads inside the app for free data. So we would reward people with free data for viewing and engaging with adverts and advertisers. And from that, we approached MTN because we felt like we don't just want to reward people with free data. We actually want to start selling our own data because data is still expensive. So we identified that problem.
In Africa, Europe, you don't know how cheap this stuff is, but you get like you can get 100 gigabytes for like 200 rand in Europe.
South Africa
level.
It's not Africa, it's actually South Africa, because outside South Africa it's not as hectic.
Yeah, I mean, in Africa, there's plenty of countries, and we top 6. We're the 6th most expensive in Africa currently. Yeah. So, I mean, Mozambique has cheaper data than us, which is quite shocking.
I travel quite a bit in Southern Africa. Most of the Southern African countries are a lot cheaper than South Africa. I mean, pay for, what was it? When I was in Malawi, you pay about 110 Rand and you get 30 gigs. And then in Zambia was pretty much the same as well. It's just South Africa that's quite expensive. But sorry to disturb you. Let's get back.
Yeah, we went on a digression there. Yeah, but that's what our talk shows are. Our talk shows about guys just interrupting each other. So Miguel, back on track. Go.
No problem. No, but that's exactly what it's about. It was identifying that problem, data being too expensive. So from that we went on and approached MTN, and we were actually their very first MVNO. So it's a virtual network operator. So we don't own any infrastructure. When I'm referring to infrastructure, I'm referring to the towers, because you need billions. If you want to start your own network from scratch, you need billions in funding. So all we're doing is we're piggybacking on their network infrastructure, but we own the billing platform and all of that. And we've got our own SIM cards, we have our own data packages and own voice and SMS rates, and that's what we do. So we're basically a mobile company, a MVNO, if you want to get technical. And yeah, we've been operating from 2022. We've been active in the mobile network space, and it's been going strong. I mean, it's very highly competitive. And it's very tough to build your own brand when there's been a monopoly around for so many years and they've been dominated by such big businesses. I mean, MTN is the most recognized brand in Africa. So when it comes to an African, so they're huge. So when it comes to a local African company, they're the most recognized in Africa, which is massive. So they're a very strong brand. They've got 66 million people on their network just in Nigeria. And in South Africa, they've got 33 million. So they're very big and very dominant. So yeah, we're facing the giants basically, but we've got a very unique approach to how we get clients. We don't necessarily just focus on building our own brand. We approach other businesses and use their network of people to create and make them a small mini MVNO. And from that's how we tap into the market. But so far, it's been going very well. We grow every day, but it's been a tough journey, but very blessed and excited.
You know what? And in all honesty, the model that you're working on is actually the most sustainable manner of doing it. Because look what happened with South Sea. They tried to come in and set up their own networks and come into the market and say we're going to try take on guys that already have 33 million users and things like that. And look how bad that became, because it eventually got to a position, there was this massive outlay of capital. Now you have to run this corporation that has this massive overhead, and you pretty much constantly having to not be able to give to the consumer in a mannerism that the Vodacoms and the MTNs can. And that's pretty much on top of all the other things that happened with South Sea. It becomes a fundamental problem in what your offering actually is to the consumer, where if you do it the way you're doing it, it's actually in your favor that an MTN is so big, because that gives you security of using their infrastructure to package your brand to have a unique offering to the consumer, and it leverages off an existing secure infrastructure. It's a phenomenal way to do it, especially in this day and age. You know, it's actually what Uber did. They didn't say, come and let's go and buy 500 taxis in every single country. Let's use existing infrastructure. It's the same Amazon did. It's what's essentially become the most fundamentally logical approach to business, to use what's already in front of you. Because the olden mindset was to go and rebuild everything and set up a whole new infrastructural system. But let's be honest, guys, it's like we really have everything, especially in countries as developed as South Africa. Just use what's there and package your offering to the consumer exactly like you're doing. Just offer something special. Don't become too caught up on running the massive corporation, which takes away from looking after the consumer, and focus more on what your offering is to the consumer. It's bravo, man. Phenomenal. You know, we've spoken once or twice about the stuff you do, but now that you've given it in depth, fantastic, Miguel. It's bravo, very applaudable.
Awesome. Yeah, you summarized it extremely well about using what's here. I mean, we don't own any buildings, so exactly like the Uber model. We don't own any shops. We don't have a MTN or Salesforce shops, but we use the infrastructure that's already there and set in place. So, no, you've summarized it very well.
Yeah, and that allows you to give people something unique. Because if you own the infrastructure and you owned all the buildings and the 10,000 staff members, but look at what's happening to all of the corporates post-COVID. They're all actually just struggling to maintain overheads on top of just even trying to look after the consumer. So by doing the model in reverse as you have, that's the phenomenal approach. Very applaudable.
Thank you.
Definitely the right way to go. And I mean, even from my side, I've got personal experience trying to own all the infrastructure, and we actually ended up coming short. So we had to re-engineer our model, and we had to go back into what we were good at, which was using other people's infrastructures and supplying them. Just to
you are going to have to explain to people what you do and not just hope.
definitely.
Just hope. Yeah. No, I'm just letting you know, because now it could be that you had your own infrastructure, that you thought of getting into the porn industry, and then you thought to just outsource it rather. So maybe be a little bit more in depth so people know.
Yeah, so Miguel, I operate in the frozen goods sector. So we export frozen goods and chilled goods from South Africa to Southern African countries. In Malawi, we own our own distribution company, so we distribute the frozen goods and the chilled goods to the supermarket, restaurants, and so on. And just to give a little bit of clarity, when I said we owned our own infrastructure, at one point we did have 34 of our own shops. They were not big shops, but they were still shops nonetheless. And,
Oof, he jumped off there. I think it could be his Wi-Fi. Well, let's give him a few seconds. Yeah, but Miguel, the way you're doing is phenomenal, and when you touched base on what you were saying in essence of where your business started on your platform about the adverts, you watch the advert, we'll reward you. It's kind of the same dilemma that we've now been pushed towards within our business. As I explained when we spoke about that this year, our focus is actually to roll out and push out our own stock exchange where people will come and submit business ideas, and on the receiving side people would be able to buy equity and trade equity within these businesses, whether it would be at startup, at scaling, or at the exit level, which then essentially helps two people. It's helping the founder raise the capital they need, and it's also helping investors feel a bit more confident in investing alongside other people. So it's pretty much the New York Stock Exchange. And the relevance, as I was pretty much saying, is that we've already, within I think 1 month where we've put the team behind this thing, we've already been approached by advertisers and said, guys, throw adverts onto your platform. Why are you guys not considering throwing wait, he came on, but had to stage. And what we've essentially got is that we've already had guys that turned around to us and said, let's throw adverts onto your app and we'll pay you before you even make money off of people trading equity within your system. And we're pretty much caught at this dilemma of thinking, but then the adverts take away from the concept of what we're trying to do to make it this secure, safe, comfortable kind of thing. So I think that's also where you kind of touched on when you were doing the adverts, and then you said, no, but we need to do more than just the adverts. We need to give our consumers more. So I think that's pretty much where we're at with our platform at StarTex, where we're now debating, do we throw the adverts in and worry about making money off of the adverts, or do we focus on being a phenomenal exchange to our consumer and giving them a greater service? So that's where our income is. So yeah, we've actually been debating that for the last, I think, 2 or so weeks. Rez, you disappeared on us there. I think you're gonna have to get one of Miguel's SIM cards so you got better network. That's my opinion.
No, it's my phone has decided to overheat for whatever reason. So
wow.
You got to close all the apps. When you
The
got too many apps happening.
Probably. But yeah, so sorry about that.
That's actually made me think what apps I got. No, you got to, guys, the funniest thing about the technology, as better it gets, I start realizing the more glitches it has. Because like on the iPhone 15, I've started realizing that if it's in charge and you start going through social media, it starts overheating. It gets hot. And the previous versions of iPhone don't have that. Like, the better the technology gets, the more of these like weird fundamental issues it seems to like start having. Yeah.
Yeah, well, my phone overheated. I've never had that before, actually. That was the first time.
It has to do with the
Yeah.
heat. And obviously, you've got so many apps open, and then
Yeah.
you're running at the same time. But yeah, just to you touched a bit on startup, like helping private companies with startup funding. I think that was probably one of our biggest challenges, is to get funding, especially in South Africa. It's very difficult.
But it doesn't exist, Miguel. As much as you try and think that guys are talking about that there's a venture capital sector in Africa, it does not exist in Africa. And it's purely based on a mindset. You see, the mindset in America is that they're very innovative, futuristically kind of mindset. What's the mindset in Africa? The mindset in Africa is that the whole of Africa are traders. It's I give you something and you give me money, and we're always constantly trading. There's none of this mindset of like trying to invest in a guy that might give you something in 2 years. It's such a hard thing. It's actually one of the things that we're trying to cure through our platform, because Africa has got all the innovation. Africa's got all the innovation. Guys are not investing in African innovation. And the reason why we have all the innovation is also the same reason that we have our fundamental issues in our countries, that we don't have things working. That's why we have innovation, because we come up with ideas to get things fixed. Where if you go to Europe, like I'm doing 6 months in Europe now, 6 months in South Africa, but everything works. Like on my first week there, I just put my foot on a bus and it took me. The guy didn't even ask for a card or anything. Everything just works. So when you're in a country like that where everything just fundamentally works, who's going to think to themselves, let me come up with something that solves the problem? It's an African problem.
Arash, think about it this way: where does the opportunities in the world lie? It lies in Africa.
All in Africa.
If everything works, then people won't innovate, like you so rightly pointed out. Why would you want to innovate if everything is working? I have a slightly different opinion to the fact that there is your funding theory. Africa has got plenty funders available. They just don't operate on the formal sector.
They don't operate on the venture. They don't work on the venture capital sector. Private equity in Africa is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
They work on the informal side, and from their side, it's not about what am I going to give you now and you give me something in 2 years. From their side is I'm giving you something now. What are you going to give me on a monthly basis? So
correct. That's
what they want.
That's the trader mindset, and essentially.
So for them is to raise capital in Africa on the corporate side of things is very difficult, because then you have to go through all the banking rules and the FICA rules and the credit acts and so on.
No, but you see, so let me get a little bit more in depth, because I've got a bit more. This is more my area. Like Miguel knows networks, the frozen goods space. You see, you've got 3 fundamental sectors that the investment industry breaks down into. It breaks down into venture capital, breaks down to private equity, and it breaks down into institutional. Now, at the venture capital level, these are the guys that came and invested in Steve Jobs when he just had a demo of the Apple phone, and they said, shit, let's give this guy money because we can see what he's going to do. And he doesn't have money already. He's not at post revenue. Let's invest in him to conceptualize his concept. This is Africa's problem. We don't have that sector. What we have is we've got a phenomenal private equity sector where you've got a lot of private investors, where the guy will say, cool, I can already see your company's making R1 million a month. You want me to give you another $1 million so you can buy 5 more trucks. And with buying 5 more trucks, you would then turn the $1 million into $2 million. And because I'm now a partner in the business, I get a share of the 2 million. And then you've got pretty much the corporate institutional structure, as you mentioned. And that's the bank. You go to the bank, you already show them you're making money. The guy says, no problem. Here's a loan of 5 million, and here's your interest rate and what you have to pay me every single month. What South Africa's fundamental problem is 2 issues. We have an entire continent of guys that have ideas and they don't even know how to conceptualize it. So we're talking about 0 to 1. Guys don't even know how to set up a company. They don't know how to make logos. They don't know how to come up with brand names. They don't know how to think of who would be the market and who to even take it to. So it's actually the educational factor of, if I have a great idea, I might be able to set up a company and be able to get it from 0 to 1. Now, 0 to 1 still isn't revenue. It's just that you've pretty much managed to come up with a name, with a company, with a logo, with some sort of a pitch deck, and what would be your market and what you're fixing. Then we've also still got a problem in 1 to 2, which is that now that the guy's managed to put down his concept on paper and has a logo and has a website and has a company name, but now he needs money to take the product to market, which is where we still have a problem in Africa. 3 is where you start making money. Then that just, guys, when you're making money, everybody will give you money. Now, if you look in America, it's actually in reverse. It's actually the funniest thing ever. They've got a far stronger incubator, accelerator, and a venture capital market than they've actually got debt structuring. Africa, one of the reasons why we were not hit by the 2008 recession is because we've got such good debt institutional funding. America, it was actually in reverse. Their debt institutional funding is not as well structured as their venture capital structuring, because what guys are doing is they're pretty much using other people's money to invest in guys to conceptualize and take products to market, and they pretty much bank it off of the government supporting them with initiatives that even if this thing busts, you're still going to make money along the route on where you actually push this concept to market, and you bought it in and you bought in partners and different products were bought and such and so forth. You know, like, let's say, like Miguel's business. Let's say he decides he now wants to go and open a shop. In South Africa, they would say to him, cool, how much money are you making before we give you money to get your own tower and your own machine and your own system and print your own SIM cards and such. In America, the guys go and partner with the guy that can give you the tower, that will give you the SIM cards, that will give you the shop fitting, and the venture capital partner you bring in partners with that guy. And eventually, if the venture capital partner doesn't make money, the guy that helped you set up the business made money, and they pretty much in a partnership, so money's being made in the vision of guys working together. South Africa, the guys don't think like that. The guy thinks unless you're making money.
No, but you also got to remember something else. How does a person in Africa in general, why do they even get involved in something? It's because it's out of desperation. They've got a problem. They need to sort the problem. They need to come up with the solution. They don't have the time or the luxury to go and research and to set up companies and put systems in place and put policies in place. The guy understands, here we go, there's a problem. My village, my town does not have water. I need to get water. How do I get water? Where do I get it from? And that's what he starts, because most of the people in the African continent, they are forced to be entrepreneurs. They're not. It's not something that, you know, they're born. They didn't wake up in the morning and say, let's be an entrepreneur. They're just saying, okay, there's a problem.
I don't think anyone wants to be an entrepreneur. It's the fucking hardest thing in the world, guys. Everyone here knows.
Exactly. So in your first world countries, it's cool to go and work in a corporate environment. It's cool to climb the ladder. and your salary increases and you get your bonuses and you get this and you get that and you get your perks. In Africa, you don't have that. In Africa, the guy wakes up and says, what must I do? What must I sell today because I need to feed my kids? What do I have to do? I have to do something. So there is no time. Africa is more on it happens on a quicker pace because there is a lot of desperation that takes place. Now, South Africa is very different to the rest of the African continent. South Africa is a little bit more formal. South Africa is a little bit more westernized. South Africa has got a lot more infrastructure. When you're in other African countries, you realize how quickly the decision needs to be made. You realize how quickly they need to make money and how they need to feed themselves. They need to put food on the table. So it's a completely different model. South Africa, in my opinion, and I mean, Arash, you and I have had this conversation on a number of occasions. South Africa is not an African country. We are not an African country. We are far away from an African country. You want to go to an African country, take a 4-hour drive outside South Africa, and you will see what African countries are all about. So in South Africa, yes, the banking system is very strong. The telecommunication system is very strong. Your legal system is relatively strong. Let's not call it very strong. It's relatively strong. So there's a lot more opportunities for a structured business model, where outside South Africa, there isn't. The guys are moving. The guy wakes up in the morning and says, oh my God, we need diapers. Where do I find diapers from? He doesn't sit down and say, I need to create a CC or a PTY. I need to have shareholders agreement. I need to have key man insurance. He's like, I need to buy diapers because my village does not have diapers. Where do I get the money from? I'll go to my uncle or my aunt or my father or my grandfather and I say, please, can I have some money? Maybe the whole community puts money together. So the structure is very different. Don't, and I always say this to the guys, you cannot compare South Africa to the other African countries. We are not on the same level. South Africa is still more structured. You can go to the bank and you can ask for capital, but again, like you rightly touched on it, they will say, how many days have you been in business? Do you have management reports? Do you have financials? How long has the business been operating? So South Africa is a little bit more difficult on that aspect, but you can raise capital, but you raise capital on an informal level. You are not raising capital the way that it's done in Europe, the way that it's done in America. It's not like that. It's not like that.
It's called family, friends, and fools. South Africa, anybody that's in startups often finds themselves in the friends, family, and fools. It's what it's known as, where you go and ask people for money around you and sell your vision. In America, guys, there is a venture capital on every corner that you can walk into and a guy will say, sweet, I can see your vision and I know the right guy to give you money for this.
Yes, because there's no desperation. There's no desperation. They're looking for opportunities because the market is so saturated. Competition is so high. I mean, in America, one of their favorite saying is the big fish eats the small fish. So
100%. 100%.
For them, it's not it's like, okay, cool. Yes, we need new ideas because the current market is saturated. So we need to come up with something different.
Miguel knows this as he was
active.
As he was saying about his journey when he was trying to look for money at the start. He knows.
Yeah, look, the pre-seed, so the different levels. So the pre-seed, before you have any revenue, when you just come up with the idea, that's the hardest, like we've mentioned now. That's when it's the toughest to get any funding. And then there's the seed part where the business starts to operate. There's some movement. And then the Series A and the Series B. So Series A, when the business has been operating a couple of years and you want to level it up. And then the Series B for more years on top of that, and there's more revenue generated. And then you also want a funding to expand even more. So when it comes to the first two parts, the pre-seed and the seed, is extremely difficult, like we've mentioned. But just I want to touch on a different topic, just on the mindset that we've experienced of the South African consumer. And the biggest challenge we've faced so far is actually trust. And we've seen that people are very skeptical when they see something that sounds amazing. they check it out because they've been abused so many years with these messages and SMSs that come their way of insurance products that are amazing, that are going to change their life, saving here and there. So it is a game of survival, but it's also very tough out there to find that trust amongst the consumer, especially if you're a new brand. And that's where we find the credibility of MTN helps. But the customer in South Africa is very difficult to convince of a new product that's exciting. So the funding is the challenge itself. But when you've got the funding and the business is operating, which is
Break
great.
into markets.
Now the go-to-market side, where the business is operating a couple of years, building that trust among a base of people, getting the people to actually trust you. That is the biggest challenge we're currently facing as a business.
But you know what's happened? It's more than business. It's literally it's at a higher level of the South African mindset. Our president did his State of the Nation address last night, and the first article today was another story, or will he deliver? Because it's gotten past the level of just business. It's literally, guys, watch our president even give a State of the Nation address, and we just think, but you've sang this song before and not delivered. We've been let down plenty. I think that's the South African mindset, and we've become very, very strong though. But you see,
we've become very.
Well, what I'm saying is we've been scammed the whole way to the presidency level. It's not just as in business, but you see, also those are the things that have made us strong. Because the South African people, whenever there's certain things that go wrong, what do? We think, sweet, something went wrong. We'll complain to our mates. We'll come up with a solution. Let's fix this thing. Let's get on it. Guys, you don't understand. This mindset does not exist in Europe. They are still blaming the government for COVID. They still have this entitled mindset that the government was supposed to come to their savior and help them be their knight in shining armor 4 years ago in COVID. People are still literally disappointed that the government did not come to their rescue when there was a global pandemic. What are we like in South Africa? We're just like, okay, another flu, which they're trying to make it sound all dramatic. Sweet. Let's just carry on with life and let's figure out how to get through this thing. It's also made us strong. You see, again, and we touch base on, we African people have so many fundamental issues on a day-to-day basis, which is where our innovation lies. We don't have that complacency. Is that the right word? I'm still learning English, whether I've been in South Africa for 30 years. The complicity or whatever, the relaxation that we just relax. Complacency. That's the one. That's the one, sir. We don't have that like in Europe. Guys, in Europe, I met a guy. He came to the restaurant in a full-blown suit. He looked like the CEO of Santander Bank. He sat at the restaurant and he ate, and he turned around and said, I can't pay the bill until my social grant kicks in next week. Can I get a bridging loan in between? And they said, sure, no problem. And he said, thank you so much. And he went on with life and still walked around like he has cured cancer, walking around like a multi-billionaire. That is just the comfort.
Yeah, but
as Africans, we're not used to it. We're not used to this comfort, guys.
Europe is in big trouble. Europe is in massive issues.
Yeah, they've got plenty. They've got plenty fundamental issues, and you don't understand how many people Europeans want nothing to do with almost everything that's been decided in Europe. I promise you, it's actually just the European leaders that are deciding, and the people are like, we don't want anything to do with this. Can you just leave us alone so we can get on with life?
Yeah, but do you see where the problem with that is, Arash? The problem with that is then the left wing kicks in, and next thing you know, we start extreme societies, and the extreme societies lead to another world war because people are so disgruntled and they feel entitled. So all you need is just one charismatic leader that puts people together, and then before you know it, we have another war. So Europe,
guys, forget it.
Yeah, Europe is in a lot of trouble.
Forget about it even on a war level. Let's call a spade a spade. Andrew Tate became a cult leader. He literally, people don't call him what he actually is because there were people sitting around on social media waiting for a guy to come around and say everything is shit. I will call everybody out on everything and tell everybody what's right. That guy became a cult leader. If it was something like in the 70s or so, he would have been some sort of like a Manson family leader of some nature. He literally became a cult leader. And look, I'm not a big fan of his and I don't hate him. I'm like very neutral about the guy, but it seems like he's maybe a little bit lost his steam. But at the peak of his time,
Miguel,
he
if
came.
you didn't notice, Arash is trying to maintain the female audiences. That's
Oh,
why
yeah,
he's saying he's not a fan of Andrew
I'm not trying to side with anybody, but that guy literally, he was the
Behind closed
closest.
doors, who knows what he thinks?
Oh no, I love him. Me and Andrew Tate were besties. But realistically, what I was trying to say is, in summary, the guy came into the market at a perfect time, and let's call a spade a spade. He became a cult leader. He literally had followings all around the world listening to this guy, listening to his advice.
Yeah.
No, but he's got diehard fans. They'll defend him in comment sections like you've never seen before. So it's like a virtual cult. I see what you're saying. It's not like a cult of the 70s where they're all gathered in person and they go to a secret place. It's almost like the secret place is on his website and online in comments. And I get what you're saying. It's actually quite a cool analogy on that. Yeah, that's very interesting. Now, he's not as popular as he used to be because of his deplatformization. He's not on Instagram and YouTube and all of that. So he's on independent new. I think he's on Rumble. He's big on that. That changed a bit of the game, but he's still around. I can still see some people commenting. I don't see his reels as much as I used to. His reels used to dominate my Instagram feed, but now he's still around though.
But you know
Well,
what?
it's
I
the same
also
thing
think
as Donald Trump. Donald Trump is still just as popular. You don't hear much of him, but he's still just as popular in America.
Yeah, he's pushing now hard. I think he might actually win the election because
I watched the thing about him the other day in his inquiry. They literally asked him, did you get away with $800 million because you knew how to use the tax system? And he's probably the first guy that turned around and said, yes, I did because I knew how to use the tax system. And they said, why? And they turned around and said, because your big corporate buddies are using that same tax system to finance all of your political decisions. And I will also use it in my favor. And if you don't want people like me to use it, then go and change it for those big corporate buddies of yours that you set these systems up for. He's actually the rawest, truest guy I've ever actually watched. Again, I'm not a big fan. I don't hate him, but he really, like what he said, is he turned around and pretty much said, yes, I used the tax system to screw the tax system because I could. And if you have a problem, change it, but change it for everyone. And the guy that was inquiring him just went quiet.
Yeah, look, we don't want to jump too much into politics, but all I'm going to say is there's no wars under Trump. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, thank God for this.
Well, that's actually he's got his buddies. He likes Putin and China.
Well, at least they weren't fighting then. At least there weren't any wars when he was in. That's now there's with Biden, everything is a bit sure.
Everything became messy, but you see, true power also corrupts. That's also the problem. They can't be peace for too long, especially with these guys. They don't like it. Because look at it as the first life history lesson. Julius Caesar came and united the entire Roman cultures to become stronger than they ever were. And this guy gave everybody water and food and helped everybody. What did the Senate do? They turned around and said, this guy is bad for us because he helps too many people in one go. It's, the political system has been a problem from the start. It's got nothing to do with this era now. People will never like the guy that actually unites everyone. He'll always be a problem. He will always, like Caesar, the guy got stabbed.
That's because you can't make money. You can't make money if everyone is united. Only in chaos. That's when you're making money.
Sure.
True. And that's the color of happiness in this day and age. Green. Gents, I think we've been going on for 40 minutes. I'm not even sure what we actually spoke about, but that's the gist of the show, to come together and just talk and freely speak. And yeah, guys,
We
guys
talked
wanna
about how
discuss-
important it is for the female audience to understand that you don't support Andrew Tate. That was very
That was
important.
a very important, crucial
Nor
aspect.
do you support Donald Trump. And then obviously Miguel told us about his wonderful business and what
And
he's created.
we saw your phone crash, so now we know
Yes.
that people like you need one of Miguel's SIM cards.
Well,
So we
iPhone
actually
overheats these days, guys. iPhone overheats.
there we go. There we go. iPhone. Just pull that SIM card out again, Ruz. Take a look there. You got Miguel's number. Tomorrow you should get an order in just to make sure that on the next episode your phone doesn't crash. Gents,
This
let
show
me
is
thank-
sponsored by Miguel, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's actually there was our advertising slot right there, guys. At the end of every episode, we'll throw in some advertising now. Gents, let me thank you for your time. It's Thursday. The weekend has begun. I think it started 6 hours ago. South African mentality, Thursday after 12 o'clock. It's pretty much the weekend.
Long weekend.
And long weekend every weekend in South Africa. So thanks, gents. It was a pleasure
Thanks for having us,
discussing.
Arash. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
sure I'll catch you guys. I'll catch you guys around. We'll throw big panels because I'm actually realizing these shows become more interesting when you have bigger groups. So I'm sure we'll catch you guys on a few more episodes as we grow it. Thanks, guys, for your time and enjoy the rest of your Thursday. And thanks to all the viewers. We'll catch you next week.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.